Hey everyone, and welcome to our 91st episode of BrewTalk with Mr. Beer. My name is Robert Lewis. I will once again be your host for today's show. As always, we appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to watch our videos. Hopefully you enjoy them or you learn something about home brewing or to help you in the brewing process. If you want to reference our notes for this video, any of our past 90 videos, head on over to our blog page, mrbeer.com/blog. You can find all the written notes on there as well as a bunch of written blog posts that go back years and years and years. A lot of useful information in there. I got a kind of short episode for you today, but something I thought was relevant, especially considering we got a lot of new brewers. People that got kids for the holiday season are cracking them open, getting their first brews going, or maybe some are on their second brews now. It's always good to kind of have this information going. So today's topic is how to tell if your beer is fermenting. Obviously, when you first brew your batch of beer, your first batch of beer, you want to make sure that everything is going correctly and working properly. However, if you've never brewed before, you might not know how to tell if your beer is fermenting. So there's kind of two main ways you can tell. During the first 72 hours of fermentation is when you're going to see the most action in your brew. So after that, it'll look like not a lot is going on, but the yeast is still eating those complex sugars. So what it does in the first 72 hours is eats up all those simple sugars. And that's when you get all the explosive action, or depends on what you're brewing, but where you get all the action going for the brewing process for the most part. After that, it may look dormant, but it's still fermenting away. There are two main things that we kind of tell our customers when they ask questions if they're not sure if their beer is fermenting or if they did something right or if their yeast was working, etc. So the first would be if you see any bubbles or foam on top of your beer. And this will be noticeable in the first 72 hours of brewing. It's also referred to as krausen, and this is kind of the primary stage of fermentation. You'll see it looks like, kind of bubbles or some foam on top of the beer. If you see that, then you know your beer is fermenting and you're good to go. Sometimes it can be very small depending on what you're brewing. Sometimes if you're brewing like a big batch, like some of our recipes that have high ABV and a lot of fermentables, you can fill the whole top of your fermenter with bubbles. You can have overflows out of the vents. All kinds of stuff can happen during that stage, but it just varies on what you're brewing. But you may see a little bit, you may see a lot. If you see any at all, then you know that your yeast is working and your beer is fermenting properly. The second thing that we have people check for is look at the bottom of your keg. So usually you can look into the side and take a look at the bottom. And you're looking for what is called Shrub, and usually this will sit in the Shrub collector. So you see here's one of our fermenters here, and we have this kind of reservoir down here. This is what we'll I call the Shrub, which is a however you say Shrub or Shrub, which is a byproduct of fermentation. So it's just it's kind of like dead yeast. It's all the sugars and everything just kind of drops to the bottom. So if you're getting that in your fermenter, then you know that your beer is fermenting away and that the process is going well. So those are kind of the two main ways to check to eyeball it, which keeps it very easy, very simple to tell if it's working or not. A third way you could check, and I think we've mentioned this before, is using a hydrometer if you have one. Basically, if you took your original gravity reading and 4 or 5 days gone by, you're not sure if there's not much activity, or you missed the point of krausen because it happened overnight, or when you're busy for a couple of days or something like that. You can just go ahead and take a reading. If it's anything lower than your original gravity, then you know your beer is fermenting. If it's the same exact as your original gravity, then you have a stalled fermentation. You might want to pitch some more yeast then. But yeah, I think that the easiest two ways are just the eyeball check. If you got that krausen on top, you're good to go. Sometimes you may miss the krausen, but you'll kind of see some, looks like crust on the side of the fermenter, because it'll kind of just set up in there. And then you know that, well, it happened, but you missed it, but you know it's fermenting away. And obviously looking for that sediment on the bottom of the fermenter. So that's going to wrap it up. Like I said, it was a very short video today, but something I thought would be informative to people. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Whatever platform you're watching on, we really appreciate that. We post all of our videos on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So make sure you're following us on all three platforms, just at Mr.Beer. Also, while you're on social media, follow at Mr.Beer. If you want to join our Facebook group, Mr.Beer's Brewing Society, you can just find that by going to Facebook, searching Mr.Beer's Brewing Society. We ask that you answer 3 questions or we won't let you in. If you don't answer them, we won't let you in. It's pretty simple questions. We just want to make sure that everyone is coming in that likes to brew with Mr. Beer and is there for helping and supporting fellow Mr. Beer brewers. I think we're getting close to like 2,000 members, so it's a pretty awesome group. So it's going to wrap it up this week. We'll see you guys next week. I hope you guys got some of those new recipes we released this previous week. They were pretty awesome. If not, you should check them out. I'll talk to you guys next week. Cheers.